discover liberation just have vastly different understandings of what liberation is for.
I haven't seen this much importance and attention.
The story itself is a really wonderful, really great setup.
Tractor beam has been engaged.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tractor Beam Comics Reviews on the Star Wars Underworld Podcast Network. I'm Matthew, and that is Chris. We've got two new comics to talk about and one not so new story. But first off, I got to shout out Marty Ingelston for that epic intro. Got a few things this week, and sure workshop there. Some things about the logo we're workshopping as well, believe it or not. So we'll all that keep it locked on that. But for now, we got that intro video, and I'm happy. We got a pretty cool, pretty sweet intro video.
Oh yeah.
Saying this is a Star Wars comics podcast. We're doing Tractor Beam Comics Reviews. Also, Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to 2024. Maybe bright, maybe cheery, maybe full of Taylor, like 2023 was. Yeah, take her or leave her. I'll take her. Chris, Happy New Year. How's it going? How did you survive your New Year's Day, New Year's Eve?
Oh yes, we had fun adventures there in Hoboken, the legendary Hoboken,
the sixth borough. Yeah.
So we were gallivanting around.
Is Hoboken specifically?
What'd you say?
Yeah, there you go. Is Hoboken specifically the sixth borough? I mean, I call all of New Jersey the sixth borough, or at least the part of New Jersey around New York.
New Jersey in general. You got Newark, you got Hoboken, you got Jersey City, Bayonne.
Yeah, there.
Same kind of thing.
Lots of places to party. Lots of places, I'm sure, to hang out there. We saw The Boy and the Heron, for New Year's Eve, and that was fun. That was pretty cool. And then we went out for drinks after. That was pretty good. Chill New Year's Eve. Slept in New Year's Day, and here got Ion Canon New Year's Day. We did our Shadow of Starlight. No, not Shadow of Starlight. Shadow of the Sith. No. Eye of Darkness. What is the title? Eye of Darkness. Shadow of the Sith. Shadow of Starlight. Come on, figure it out, Matthew. Eye of Darkness review. That was pretty fun. And that'll come up later on in the Shadow of Starlight review, I'm sure. First off, let's get plugs out of the way here. You can follow us on still keeping with the Ion Canon pod on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. And at the SWU, and of course at Star Raptor. We'll get into more of the plugs later on at the end of the show. We'll get more in depth again that, but thought to hit that off the top of the hour, top of the podcast. All right, let's dive right in. Got three stories, two comics. Happen to be two villains I'd say the key villains in Star Wars canon. Marchion, of course, being a newer one, but Darth Vader being the villain and the guy.
Yeah.
All that. So let's dive right in. Darth Vader number 42, written by Greg Pak, art by Adam Gorham. I think he coming up first time there. Colors by Federico Blee, cover by Linnell Francis Yu and Romulo Fajardo Jr. The rise of the Schism Imperial. It is here. In the wake of dark droids, Darth Vader explores his powers and takes on the most dangerous team of rebel heroes he has ever faced. Meanwhile, the greatest threat to the Emperor's rule is rising from within the Empire itself. Will the Dark Lord of the Sith destroy it or join it? Featuring the comic book debut of Enric Pride from Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. And again, all these things, yet another arc, yet another thing coming down that's not quite at Return of the Jedi. Here's the rule. If you enjoy the story, then you enjoy the story, and it earns it by... for us enjoying the story. And I gotta say, Greg Pak wrote a banger in this one. Very much. Enric Pride coming in. I didn't even know that. Of course, I didn't really read the solicits or anything, so maybe that it would have been in this description there. It's hard to tell that is Pride. I'll show my version of the cover here. Yeah, that's Pride on the...
Because he's 30 years younger than he was in Rise of Skywalker.
That's true.
So
he's a lot younger
in his his early 30s there, I would imagine.
And he acts like it too. He's a lot
more. They did it so well. I'm very curious. I don't want to take too much of the steam away from your impressions, unless you want me to do my impressions first or whatever.
I mean, I was on the roll, so I'll go for it, and then we'll jump to you. But yeah, to say, yeah, it was really, really interesting, really well written, exciting. We got into Pride's own mind here, and he's, we know from Rise of Skywalker he's loyal to Palpatine. I served you in the last war. Of course, there he's also trying to pony up and be loyal to the guy in charge. But in this one, yeah, he's kind of getting in Vader's way, and Vader kind of has to literally push him out of the way. Um, the implications of dark droids in that Vader can take on this enhanced rebel team, these rebel cyborgs, and get in their minds, these are cyborgs, and control them. That, I mean, it's continuing to show Vader at his height, at his strength. I was really surprised by Palpatine in this. He is starting to see Vader as an actual threat almost. He was disappointed that he's getting stronger. Before, he would be all, I'm testing Vader. I want to see if he's able to rise to the occasion and be my worthy apprentice. Now I think he's starting to worry that he's going to do the Sith thing and take over. And of course, Sly Moore does actually list that, and she gets promoted to administrator. Does actually list that and mention that and say, "Are you going to do the Sith thing?" I think that, if anything, is a nod to the direction in Return of the Jedi, sort of. We know, I mean, we kind of went back and forth. Was it this week or this podcast or on Monday or at some point where is Vader very subservient at the beginning of Return of the Jedi? That being said, Return of the Jedi is about him overthrowing Palpatine. So, that is how the story goes. Are there seeds to that there? Unless of course it's he's put in his place, and that's, after this sort of uprising, joining this schism or not, using it to leverage against Palpatine. We'll see. Definitely off to a really exciting, great start. Really gripping, even though it doesn't show Vader all that much. It really Pride seems to be the point of view character. Vader is definitely, it's we still believe it. We still buy it that it's a Vader comic. That's my thoughts. What do you think of this whole comic?
Yeah, first of all, if you guys are first appearance collectors, you're gonna want to go out and get the variant covers for this one. Keep it pristine. We'll see how much stock the rest Skywalker characters have in the next 10, 30 years. We'll see. But nonetheless, I'm very curious to know if Kieran Gillen had any communication with Adam Christopher, because Enric is like Adam Christopher's baby
Greg
right
Pak
now.
or Kieran?
Greg. Sorry, not Kieran. We were talking about Kieran Gillen.
Yeah, so the backdrop. Tonight. This is from Kieran Gillen's comic.
Yes, I'm saying Greg Pak must have had some kind of communication with Adam Christopher, who has written this character in a story you have not read yet, which you should maybe make a beeline for in the Return of the Jedi, because I believe this exact comic was actually referenced in his story, because it's mentioned that he didn't have the Vigilance or whatever the heck the Star Destroyer was. He was on another Star Destroyer. So it gets me to believe like the story group is so powerful, or the writing is so powerful, that this has been months and months and months in planning that the story has been done, apparently. Or maybe it was Adam Christopher that wrote it. But anyway, I just like to have that that complementary kind of character that's floating between all these different mediums, and it just seems right to me. But even looking at the movie, like you said, this is a younger version of Pride. This guy is sort of unhinged. We see him acting against the Ewoks in that same story that Adam Christopher wrote for from a certain point of view, Return of the Jedi. That's the book I'm referencing. So it's really fun seeing that. It was neat seeing this vantage point of the Imperials, for a change, being the underdogs of a battle in a point of their lifespan, of the Imperials' lifespan, when they are the dominant force of the galaxy. It's not after Return of the Jedi yet. They're not on the downswing. This is still at their height, respectively. But the rebels have really gotten organized. They've really gotten to the point where there's like over 100 rebels that have converged. They've just completely destroyed a Star Destroyer. They have these cyborgs that they've managed to just create that they think are stronger than Death Troopers, which is saying a lot. So it's nice to see the Rebels as the enemies, and the overwhelming enemy in this case. So I really just enjoyed the backdrop of just jumping into this story of the Imperials being caught off guard on all sides. And like you said, Vader is in this, but when he does show up, he is badass as all heck, because there's this one double truck page where it's just Vader in the middle, and he is just like slashing through. There's probably 20 panels of him just wrecking these cyborgs. And he says something along the lines of, are they formidable to Enric Pride? Because little does he know, he's going to use that's the page. Yeah, that's the highlight page. If we have a comic book page of the week, that's mine right there.
There you go. Adam Gorham, welcome to the show. My word.
Yeah, so that was awesome. Seeing that, and then just getting to see Vader as a character evolve, getting to see that he has taken what he learned from the droids. Like, Vader has always been obsessed with droids, going back to the Phantom Menace as Anakin, working on C-3PO. So like how Greg Pak has continued to hit that point to us that says he's really good as a mechanic, and he still tinkers with stuff even in the Vader form, to the point where we get to see how good the crossover is of Dark Droids. We've been speaking its praises about how each run individually uses those elements from the Scourge and capitalizes on them and builds on the character of their own devoted stories. And that has happened here. We get to see this is the first story in the mainline comics that we have gotten to read that takes place after the Scourge. There is no more, as we noticed, there is no more banner, as I mentioned last week. Oh, that was the last banner we'll see for Dark Droids on Bounty Hunters issue number 41. And here we don't see it on Darth Vader. We're back to the basics of these stories. And it does seem like there is ramifications from that story. We see how it's mentioned in here, but we also see how Vader has taken advantage of getting used to using those cybernetics, getting used to using the droids, and then infecting the cyborgs, and then working on them on Mustafar was really neat. Going to Palpatine, I like how you said that Palpatine is like finally like on edge. You know, Vader and him have been at odds for a while now, back and forth, back and forth. You know, we talked last week about subservient, submissive versus dominant, and he's in hiding in plain sight to take him out. What's going on? Yeah. But it was really great, and I got a chuckle out of Sly Moore getting one up on Masameda. Yeah. And Masameda, that slimy sleazeball getting electrocuted by Palpatine was so fulfilling. I loved every panel of that shot, just him getting fried by Palpatine. Like, I've been waiting for years for that to happen, and it finally happened in this comic book.
Sly Moore, what's her species again? Shoot.
Umbaran.
Sly Moore and Umbaran asking Masameda, you look pale.
That's a trigon of bright blue alien. Yeah, you look pale today.
Well, bright blue alien, but like, you know, that species again, blanking on it. But just they're pale. They're white skin. You know, that's it's great. Great writing in there, Greg Pak. Really, curious. This whole idea of the schism. I mean, well, and the motivations behind it, right? I think I haven't gotten a chance to listen to the Splash Page guys, but their caption in their social post for their episode today talked about what the motivations for the Schism Imperial are. That they think Palpatine is this bumbling kind of not governing, and we're actually going to get into that a little bit in Shadow of Starlight, but he's there researching everything and not actually leading the galaxy. And Sly Moore and I think who else is it Sly Moore and Masameda are part of the schism? Like, I'm trying to see it.
No, I don't think Masameda is part of it.
No, I guess not. Yeah, who's in? Right, it's basically Sly.
No, who, okay. Of course, so far, and I did research
Sly,
on this.
Maybe Pride, I guess.
Sly, Governor Tontaza, who used to be a Crimson Dawn agent. Right. That was the same one I reckoned was the person in the Space Marine armor. That's her. She flew away. That she was from the arc with Jul Tambor, the grandson of Wat Tambor, with the whole separatist uprising thing, the droid uprising. And then we have either it's Captain or Admiral Corley Q or Curly Q, who
Yeah.
was actually way back in that arc with Exegol, and he was one of the he was the commander aboard the fleet of Star Destroyers that was pursuing Vader in his TIE fighter as he was going, and then that's when the that creature that was from Solo,
like the maw.
that thing they end up like fighting. So he was all the way. That's why they take some deep cuts in this one. They get
Greg
these
Pak.
characters from all the way in the beginning of the arc of Vader, so many dozens of issues ago. So that was pretty cool. But I like the idea. This does. I got the sense of a little bit of finality that could happen at the end of this arc, because Sly Moore is literally offering Vader, like, you have to learn how to defeat him or something to that degree. We can help you do that. We can help you to your ends. We're not going to give you any moths. We're not going to give you any like higher people, but what we can give you is legions of disgruntled Imperials that you can use to your bidding. You've been looking for these droids and different inorganic means to rising an army, but I can give you, organic people that can be driven as soldiers. And this is mentioned before as well when they're working on the cyborgs. And I always forget, I think his name's Zed, the droid.
Yeah.
Zed is mentioning as they're operating on a Mustafar, with these different subjects, like, oh, we can't completely take out their organic components because then they'll lose their training as soldiers. That's the one unique thing that's enabling to be as good as they are. So that's where it goes back between droid versus organic soldiers and all that good thing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Vader uses them and how Vader relates to this schism, because especially that offer of a well-placed bureaucrat. We usually see Vader as this brute, as Palpatine's enforcer, as someone who rules by fear. And yeah, there are different ways of ruling by fear, but it'll be interesting to see him try and play the political game some more. And we haven't really seen much of that, to actually have the patience to use bureaucrats that kind of can shift some paper over here, or put up a roadblock over there, or this, that, and the other. Have that long game, that long-term plan. Maybe that's his downfall. Maybe that's what lands him and this whole schism in the pit, is that he isn't able to do that, or isn't willing to do that, overplace his hand or something. Because I mean, that's the thing of all these nothing characters. They're all expendable. They've all committed treason against Palpatine. Even Sly Moore, I guess we haven't seen. We know Masamita, he's going to be fine, but from the Aftermath trilogy. But Sly Moore, we don't know anything. I think I don't think this is going to end well for any of them.
Nope.
And so,
I think what happens is you're going to get the power build. This power build up in Vader. He's going to be so just like how he was on Exegol. He gets all this power. He's going to take down the Emperor, and the Emperor is going to knock him down a peg, and that's where we're going to see the Vader run end. I think it's going to end there.
He might even out bureaucratize or whatever, out manipulate. I mean, because we have seen Palpatine use.
Remember that whole thing in Bad Batch, right? Everything was looking well for the clones, and next thing you know, flips the switch on his own man on Admiral Rampart, and next thing you know, the creation of the Stormtrooper Corps is now official and is sanitized.
I mean, I was talking about a whole trilogy of George Lucas films, but that's among other things. But that, I mean, the Bad Batch thing, that's a great example of what we see throughout the prequel trilogy, is him being able to use and to not be a brute. He needed Vader. He needs to turn Anakin to be that enforcer, to be that symbol of fear and the public face of fear, so that Palpatine can rule from the shadows. Maybe that's going to be what it is. He's going to, maybe Masamita, we see him being a bumbling fool here. We see him being a bumbling fool with Mon Mothma and Leia in Life Debt and Aftermath, I believe that was, or maybe it's Empire's End, one of those two. Maybe he's, at least under Palpatine, he's a precision scalpel, and that's maybe how Palpatine's able to beat him. Greg Pak, I mean, he hasn't written that kind of story yet in this run, but Yeah, I agree. This does hopefully feels final. Hopefully feels leading somewhere. I do see Joel in the comments saying this that maybe doesn't feel like it fits, doesn't feel like it connects. I think two things. Again, I'm going to reiterate this. I think what I've come to is we can live with a delay to Return of the Jedi if we just enjoy the story, right? Like with the beginning of Dark Droids, we enjoyed the story, so why not, right? But also, yeah, now that we think about this, now that we're talking about it, I can definitely see. Yeah, I mean everything. I mean, we know Afra is coming to an end. We know Bounty Hunters is done. So, or we're coming to an end with one more issue too. So, yeah, I mean, 2023 Return of the Jedi at 40 is done. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I can. We're hope. I mean, that's the thing is even if we do enjoy these arcs, like I've said, it's starting to. Okay, let's move on. Let's get to this.
We say this like a broken record every week on this track.
I mean, but they have to keep earning it, and that's the problem, right? In 2020, they didn't have to earn it. We were all okay. We're on this journey. It's 2024. Yeah, they have to work harder to earn it, I should say. Greg Pak, I think he's earned another arc for me, but yeah, just because I thought it was cool and exciting and really interesting story.
Yeah,
and if it adds this final piece of the puzzle, I'm here for it. The way Dark Droids didn't end up adding a piece to the puzzle. So yeah, I don't know if do you have any final thoughts on Darth Vader number 42?
I'm just all here for a civil war between the Empire. I'm really looking for. We've seen that in different elements. We've seen that. This is a big callback to the TIE Fighter miniseries. I think it was issue number 3, if I'm correct, where you literally had Imperials fighting Imperials because some of them were allegiant to like this one order that came down and the other ones were fighting against it. So it was like a civil war because they're like, the Death Star has been destroyed, and they just start firing at each other. Right. I just find that interesting, like just the civil war of okay, we're gonna have Sly Moore and Vader versus what, a bunch of stormtroopers and death troopers and Palpatine's there. This could be very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how Palpatine possibly reacts to this and what he puts measures wise in place and all that.
That'll be interesting. I mean, because the destruction of the Death Star, the first Death Star is what you're referring to. I read that comic. It was a while ago. I don't quite remember what happened there, how that all went down.
It was the second Death Star, I believe.
It was the second Death Star.
Yeah.
This is the one that's sort of connected to Alphabet Squadron.
Yeah.
With the characters from the Han Solo thing. Yeah. Okay. Well, either way, I mean, no, it was because that's set before. That's set like during. I'll look this up. What I remember is, anyway. Regardless, the point I was driving at is the destruction of a Death Star creates a power vacuum, creates questions about orders. Maybe they're right. The Palpatine, he is just like we're going to see the Jedi Council in the Living Force. He's trying to figure out how many angels Viego dance on the head of a horse pin. I'm going to repeat that line lots of times too. And isn't actually taking charge of the galaxy. That he's kind of being very esoteric and trying to get into the world between worlds, get into this, that, and the other, not actually leading. And maybe that's the case. And maybe that's the reason for the power vacuum and for the schism is, without clear leadership, things fall apart. Right. As happens after the actual after the destruction of the second Death Star, the shattered empire, the empire shatters. So yeah. I'm good with this direction. Hopefully it ends well. As we know, it's hard to do, but let's see. Any last thoughts on this before we move on?
That is all
right. Shadows of Starlight number 4 of 4, written by Charles Soule, art by David Messina. Welcome back, David Messina, and Jethro Morales. Colors by Mattia Iacono, and that cover, of course, by the iconic Phil Noto. Marchion wins. The final glimpse of the lost year of the High Republic is revealed as we follow the Eye of the Storm himself, Marchion Ro, from his greatest triumph, the destruction of the Jedi fortress known as Starlight Beacon, to the many trials that came after. Chris, I'll throw this to you. What do you think of Shadows of Starlight #4?
Yeah, keeping things short and concise. I'm gonna read through my little bullet points as I read. The irreverent narration of locations was really funny. I got a kick out of that. It's like
that was great.
It's just like as if Marchion Ro, the Eye of himself, is writing this story. We got Marchion and Gira romance displayed in comics. Some hot steamy scenes there. Pretty cool. We have Arathab back from the dead, or at least I don't know if he was alive or not, but it's cool seeing character from Daniel Jose Older's mini series. What was it? The Nameless Terror? No, I was confusing the Dark Horse or IDW comic with the Marvel mini series, which is save me on this one, Matthew. What was that?
It's the whodunit
the investigative one.
Yeah,
I'll think of it and come back.
Yeah.
We have the origin of the relationship between General Weiss and Marchion Ro. We got Bulan, a nice little reference to Phase 2. We have the Tower of Sauron, now in Hetzel, and a lot of existential stuff going on in the head of Marchion Ro. Does he lead? What is the purpose of the Nile? Do they just, pillage and raid, and that's all they do? Is Gira going to get through to him, talking about building a lasting empire versus just raiders? There's a lot to break down in this one, but yeah, overall, the one thing I will say, this is all great. It's all good stuff. And here we go again, talking about the release schedule. This should have been out before the Eye of the Storm, if you ask me. This should have been out before even the first story of the High Republic into Marvel Comics, because I already knew every single thing in this, essentially.
Yeah.
So there was no like, ooh, this is a surprise, or ooh, that's cool, because I knew everything already. And that's no fault of the storytelling with Charles Soule. It's just, in this case, I wish things would have been planned out a little bit better. That's all.
It was particularly difficult to read after having just done our Eye of Darkness review, and how especially I'm still a little perplexed by this whole thing with Gira and wanting to have a Nile state. I'm not perplexed, right? I get it now that she's naive and trying to save her own skin, and has buyer's remorse, and is trying to do something resembling anything familiar in the kind of protections that she knows a legitimate government could have for the rule, trying to bring the rule of law of the Nile. I did enjoy seeing the descent into madness. That was well put. I mean, it's just one page, I think, of like 1 week and then 1 month and whatever.
Yeah.
But that was a really compelling moment, interesting moment to see that. It does pick up everything we were talking about on Monday about Marchion, the way Joel described it. The dog that caught the car. Now what? What do we do? What does he do now that he's destroyed but doesn't know how to build up? So it was fine to see that again, but we saw it again, and I think if the release order would have helped with that, but even the novel makes it still a little redundant, I think. If anything, and now here's my other criticism. Again, Charles Soule, still my favorite comic book author of all time. Still my favorite. But really wordy. Again, really, really wordy for a comic book. And it's not necessarily bad if the script is good, but it was a lot of, and it's not the script was terrible, but it was a lot of exposition, a lot of explaining things, a lot of stuff that a comic actually probably like Greg Pak and Adam Gorham did such a great job showing that Charles Soule for so many times, and his artist collaborators have done a great job showing rather than just telling, maybe with gestures and smaller words, not smaller words, but less words. or and this is the whole thing with this whole run, this really could have been a great story in Tales of Light and Life. It really could have, and maybe even get Charles to write it, get George Mann to write it.
Oh yeah.
It has the level of the amount of dialogue that a short story would have. that a novel would have. And so that, again, it's not like I don't like reading. Again, Iron Canon podcast, reading, all these books I got, but it's like make better use of the comic book medium that is able to be more like more of a visual medium, I think. So yeah, again, it was fine. I just, yeah, the release schedule kind of, it made me scratch my head about, okay, what are we getting that's new? The Bulin thing, I think it was like, even Dom was pointing this out, the Bulin thing, that is new, that is interesting.
Yeah.
The moment, like you were mentioning too, the moment where he's like, oh, I need test subjects, so you're right, I will like that kind of.
Yeah.
We get that character moment, we get those with Bulan and Marchion, and saying, okay, this angle that I hope we see more of in phase 3, right? I hope we see more of this side, because Shadow, Eye of Darkness, what's the word? Eye of Darkness didn't really have time to go into him too much, which is fair. It had lots of other things to do. So yeah, it that was good. That I appreciated. It's still, going back to the whole Gira question I mentioned before, talking about Palpatine. Yeah, that interesting moment. It does add a little bit in the sense of, but things that actually could have been in the novel, in the George May novel. That moment of, you want Markian to lead, to govern. No, I'll take care of that. You just rule, and be the symbol of leadership. Yeah, that kind of was in the novel anyway. So yeah, again, reading it so closely, reading it after it yeah, I guess I'm repeating
myself. Oh, I just want new content. I want new content. We're through this already. Let's go.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it. But it's funny. Again, it's another run that started off super strong, especially in super new. The Guardian Protocols and Yoda and Aslan Rel, and
that even was the biggest thing.
Yeah, those two. That issue was fantastic. Another weird thing about this issue, we thought at the end of issue number 3 that they would continue the Darth Vader.
We didn't get to see him die. Darn it.
Well, we do see him die, but in Eye of Darkness, Darth Vader. But we read about him dying, but we don't see him getting captured. It's just assumed, that could have been more. So yeah, another kind of all right comic, but yeah, I really wonder. Again, this is the last time I'll say it, I promise. Yeah, what the experience of those folks who may be reading in chronological order will experience of this, reading this, then reading Eye of Darkness, might be good, might be exciting, might be a good prequel to Eye of Darkness. It does, again, points the way forward to other things in phase 3, hopefully. But it does, yeah, it does give the three kind of new Tempest runners, if you will, but yeah, nothing we haven't seen in Eye of Darkness. So that's all. I'm repeating myself. Anything more to say about this one?
Yeah, I certainly do. I just, again, one of the Tempest runners, or the military
ministers,
one,
or whatever it's called,
whatever they're called. We have General Vice. I really enjoyed. I think she's such a fascinating character, and if you look at her, she's a Miri Allen, and when we see that she aged in 150 years, same thing will happen to Vanessa Rowe in the Acolyte, right? So we're gonna see 100-year jump. So it's like Lucasfilm is already preparing us, like, see this alien species, they can live a long life. Yeah. We got another one of the same species that's going to do the same in a jump to live action TV this year. We could literally say this year, High Republic content on the big screen or little screen. But yeah, put it in the movie theater. I'll go see it again.
Do it.
I'll go see another Star Wars show on the big screen. I've done it with Mando. I'll do it again. But Ahsoka. There you go. I digress. Where was my point with all this? Yeah, so General Vice, I loved to see how she got involved. This very devious character. Oh, I'm just a retired person and they need my help. Yeah, you have to give me all control. Oh, don't worry. If you don't want to give me all control, you'll all be dead by the morning. We gotta change the thought. And then just dead. And here I am, the opportunist, that is just going to offer you this entire planet in return for me being with the victor that I foresee will win. And I want to be on we see this all the time in other fiction. It's like the person that just does the double cross because they're like, I got to be on the winning side of this at the end. I can't be the one prosecuted and all this sort of thing. So I don't know if it's more out of fear or out of just deftness of, hey, I know how this is going to end. All right, I want to be on your team for this. So the sudden dismissal of all these poor civilians and everything else, just like to the detriment. And now she is like, and I love how she put it, right? She's one of the big things that gets Marchion to rethink his idea of what he's doing with the Nile. It's like, hey, the Nile are good at raiding and pillaging, but they're not stormtroopers. They're not able to be occupiers of planets to hold them in place. But General Vice offers that help to be like, but my troops, my mercenaries are trained and can actually do that job. So that's why you want me around. So I like that whole exchange. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess now that you're talking about it, hashing it out, I'll say the story in this comic, the ideas in this comic are good. It just, again, the timing, execution. Yeah, again, in a different medium, in a short story, let's get this. I mean, it's definitely setting up the Nile, the struggle of the Nile to be a more organized unit, especially given they have this territory. And Charles Soule pulling some law on us in international law. There are conditions for statehood that you have territory, you have to have monopoly on the use of force, and you do that, you have to have some sort of organized military. And to do that, have an organized military, you have to have an organized leadership, government leadership. And so that brings in Gira and her whole thing. But it's a struggle for them to actually do it because Marchion is so hell-bent on being the chaos, being the Nile. I mean, that's interesting. Being the chaos, just like Axel Greylark a little bit. Just the thought there. Being chaotic as opposed to being organized. On Monday, we posited that his refusal to be organized is part of the downfall of the Nile, potentially. That might not be the case. Maybe these cooler heads will prevail. Certainly, Gira sucking Marchion's face at the end, that probably helps a little bit. Although, we'll see. It does set up an interesting question. Is she going to succeed in creating the kind of organization that she wants, that she's calling for? Is she going to actually be able to win Marchion over, outmaneuver him? We know, in Eye of Darkness, there was this moment where she's developing this faction that might be able to either challenge Marchion or at least present him with a formidable chunk of this Nile that he has to actually pay attention to.
I think we could have a Nile civil war by the end of this phase.
That's also possible.
We were talking about a civil war between Imperial factions. I think it's very likely here. I'm calling it now. January 3rd, 2024. Tractor beam Gear Staros is going to be the death of Marchion Ro. It's going to be like Rook with
I was about to say it would be artful.
Stab them in the back, claim the Nile for herself, unify all of them, and then that's the end of the High Republic. I don't know.
And then develop this very English-looking parliament and have a capital on man, I go on stream and I just blank. No, not Hetzel. On Dooku's planet.
Sereno?
On Sereno. Just have a capital in Sereno. And then, 200 years later, they
because the Staroses, their home base is Hosnian Prime.
Yeah.
So are we saying that the New Republic builds its capital in the ashes of the Nile capital from 200 years prior?
Maybe. No, cool. I'm saying is the large scale Star Wars historical question I'm very curious about is, what is the relationship between the Nile and the Separatists? Is there something there? I mean, we have, there's the Saroses, there's the Sentekas and the Graphs. I don't think either of them are part of the Separatists. necessarily. I don't remember, but still, there's still something. I mean, yeah, I mean, Rebel Alliance too, but to a lesser degree, the Rebel Alliance is out for something else. They're trying to restore the Republic.
Yeah.
The Separatists, like the Nile, they have this area of space separate, and so yeah, and they want. I mean, again, the Rebel Alliance, they want more democratic government from Coruscant or Hosnian Prime or Shendril or wherever the heck. The Separatists and the Nile, they want this looser confederation. And I mean, there's the parallels to the American Civil War a little bit, right? This looser confederation, separate. I wonder if this is kind of the impetus for a very anti-Coruscant Outer Rim tension. What's the oh my gosh, blanking on words, Matthew. Yeah. Oh gosh. Resistance. Resistance isn't the word, but resistance to Coruscant.
Okay.
The word will come to me. The word will come to me.
Switching gears, for a final thing on this story.
Yeah.
What did you take from those last panels in the last page?
Resentment. That's the word.
Okay.
Sorry.
With the bug, him crushing the bug, does that symbolize something?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Because then he's reciting the same words that Gira had said. I was looking at this right before the stream went live.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's like mocking her.
Yeah.
By crushing this bug. I mean, there's a whole lot we can glean from that, I feel like, but I want to just get your take on it.
I had in my mind, I mean, what I've been talking, what we were talking about on Monday, Joel, Don, and I were talking about on Monday, conquest, destruction, what I leave behind. He's so fixated on tearing things down, and Gira's trying to get him to think about what his legacy is, to think about what he actually ends up building, what he could end up building, and an appeal to his ego to be, I'm the one who built up something new and something productive. Look at me. But also, okay, does this actually matter? Do I actually care about just destroying, about squishing these bugs? I think it's a moment of conscience. I mean, again, the way Messina Morales drew it, there's this moment of conscience to say, what am I doing? What do I care? What do I care about? I'll just show you guys the panel in question here. I think he has a moment of why.
But I mean, this could be a whole nother episode discussion for another day. Probably better suited on Ion canon itself. But what is the legacy of the Nile in future Star Wars storytelling? Like, I can't wait for the day in the future when on a big movie screen we get to hear the mention of the Nile and the Marchion row and the legacy left behind. Like, let's imagine, right? We're all looking forward to the Rey film. It's been in the news lately. They're getting started working on that pretty soon, I believe. But we don't want to have another droid army as an enemy. We don't want to have another empire. We don't want to have another Sith. What happens if these new enemies are more like the Nile, and then somehow a character is referencing like, oh yeah, 250 years ago there was this Nile uprising and they separated part of the space with this occlusion zone and they totally took the Republic by storm. Like that's the kind of stuff I want to see. I want to see that on the big screen, and I would get a big kick out of that.
Oh yeah, we especially need the phrase "by storm." By storm. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's 2024. There is a show coming out where we're the only person on the TV side, on the screen side, who is really clued into what's going on with High Republic. You mentioned Vernestra, Leslie Headland. I think if there's a place to see, the implications of to answer this question, it's in the Acolyte. It's in John Jackson Miller's The Living Force. I think those two are going to play with that more than anywhere else. That's the great question. And again, I was talking. That's the question about the Separatists and that implication. We know in that video game that I don't know what's happening with that. There were the Lucre Hulks or something like the Lucre Hulks there, and that's set during the High Republic. That's jogging my mind, it's getting my mind going about, okay, what is the connection? Yeah, I mean this kind of chaos marauders. I love the theory that the Cloud Runners in Solo, that they're this more benevolent descendants of the Nile. I mean, some like Emphas Nest. I mean, she's got the mask. There's this cloud storm imagery. I like that theory. I don't know if it'll ever be confirmed, but it's a great question. It's definitely something. Yeah, for once we get more of those answers. Yeah, I think Joel and I are definitely going to tackle that. So that's a great point.
All I'm saying is it doesn't even have to be the Acolyte. It could be any other show, any other movie. We go to the planet of Iram and we see the wreckage of Starlight Beacon. They don't even have to say anything, but those fans like us will be like, oh my gosh, will be like that meme, pointing at the screen with the popcorn. Oh my gosh, that's Starlight Beacon.
Yeah. That'll be something. Even if Iram shows up at all, or one of these. That's that whole paper to screen question period, right? I don't know. Again, it seems more likely. The Acolyte seems the most likely, but maybe the story group will say, hey, showrunner or whatever, or director, why don't you just throw this in? Just throw this in. It doesn't have to affect the story at all. Just throw it in. A bunch of fans. You don't even know why. We won't even tell you why. A bunch of fans will go nuts and create more buzz for your film. You want more buzz for your film. It's it's how it works, right? It's how it works.
Yeah.
All right. I guess we can move on to Tales from the Occlusion Zone. Still in the High Republic. Still in the Occlusion Zone. Tales from the Occlusion Zone, Friend or Foe, from Insider number 223, written by Lydia Kang. Read it again this evening. I'll say, it really, there's no description, so that this one was really gripping. I mean, Shadow of the Starlight was tough. I mean, again, it's a short story. It has the short story vibes, really diving into the horror vibes. Really felt the Adrens, especially when they're on their own ship and the buzz droids are taking on them, but then they go and they have to go and scavenge that Nile ship there on that asteroid. I do wonder. Part of me fancifully wonders if that's the same asteroid that the Falcon hides in Empire Strikes Back. I don't know if that's true or not, but similar kind of strategy, right? Similar strategy. So really, even the click going through, I mean, makes me feel like is that like a Geonosis, the Geonosis arc or episode in Rebels, a bit of a resonance there of this foreboding. I mean, click clack. I mean, turns out to be a cute little whatever, but they do end up being captured by the Nile at the end of the story, or held at gunpoint at least. So really full of suspense. They figured out after a month or so. I mean, it's the Adrens. They figured out how to survive in the Occlusion Zone, which of course has gotten bigger because Marchion can move the friggin' storm wall. We read in Eye of Darkness, and so they found themselves the line. They find themselves on the other side of the storm wall, just not on their own terms. And the last thing, both this story and the one before, I looked up Lydia Kang. She does have 3 children. You don't have to have been pregnant to be able to write this way. Obviously, I've never been pregnant and never will be, but it really feels so realistic. Like Pika thinking about her child, thinking about just instinctively her thought gets interrupted and her hand goes to her belly. It feels like someone who's experienced the tension and the stress of being pregnant and of creating a new life within yourself in a perilous time. Hopefully not as perilous as what the Edrins are experiencing, but life is perilous, life is stressful. What kind of world are we bringing kids into now? Even though there are the opportunity, there are the potential for a better one. yeah, it's so well written. Even those small quiet moments as well. So really well written. And so yeah, credit to Lydia Kang for taking this on and just showing us. I think, I mean, I'd like to. It's a very personal question, but I'd like to ask her. How much of that have you been able to incorporate into this writing? So the right person to write it for sure. So yeah, Occlusion Zone, friend or foe. Chris, what did you think of that one?
Yeah, horror is a great way to describe it, Matthew. I love the use of the scav droids. We've seen quite a bit of them tearing apart certain Jedis, which I won't spoil, ships in the Eye of Darkness novel by George Mann. So
it came out a few months ago. Avar Cruz's ship.
Yeah, so that was awesome because it's like, all right, we're seeing those common threads. That's why the High Republic is so good, because they're interweaving. In that moment that I told you not to read this story, because I was like, dude, the big hinge point of Marchion being able to expand his campaign at the flick of a switch, just like, all right, we're expanding the Storm Seeds. Go ahead. Now we have Ryloth. Now we have Sereno. Now we have almost Iriadu at this point. And then I don't know if it was in this or another story, but they're like, at one point, they're like, yeah, we could just take over hut space if we wanted to.
Yeah.
We could just expand it to wherever we want. So it's just that whole idea of the Adrians. Here they went on this mission. Oh, we'll be back in a day or two. And now they are stuck. You got this existential threat, this external threat of the Nile themselves that could do damage. But then this internal threat, this internal conflict of, oh crap, we can't be here for several months. I'm about to have a baby. What am I gonna do? There's no medical attention around here. It's just a bunch of savages and just carnage everywhere. And them running into the Nile at the end. It's, oh man, this story keeps getting better and better and better. And I just really enjoy following these characters. It looks like we're going to be following the Adrians. This is probably their story, which I love. I mean, we got the Tales of Starlight, which were more or less like switching characters every 2-3 stories. But I think it's going to be pretty cool to have a more of a laser focused short story collection on just these two characters.
Yeah, it definitely feels like one continuous story too, and that's really nice. I mean, almost a little novella. You could, I mean, they will release the collected edition, if you will, of it. And so yeah, to read that all the way through. I know some people are actually waiting for that to come out before they read it, which fair enough. To read, almost way through like a novella. It's definitely, I mean, Lydia definitely had this planned out and charted and structured like that. Obviously has to fit in the word count and the constraints of these monthly magazine releases, but more like you were saying, more connected than Tales of Starlight, which was great and it was really cool, and where we first encounter the Adrians in Charles Soule's short stories at the very beginning of High Republic 35 years ago. I'm just kidding. Great. Another little kind of literary thing I noticed, I mentioned, show not tell in a comic. You can do show not tell in a prose story too, and just some small little things that just get implied. One little moment where the line, I think, is the only light coming from the beams of their flashlights or whatever, their lights, not, it's this more passive, we see it in our mind's eye, as opposed to they shone a beam and that was the only light. No, we were already in the darkness and coming there. That corpse that falls on Pika, I think, and we're supposed to, I mean, I didn't quite get what that was happening.
Me neither.
You're supposed to feel, the point is you're supposed to feel the chaos and uncertainty that Pika is feeling in the moment. Something's fallen on my shoulders. What's happening?
Yeah.
It's a corpse, it's a specter. I think the Nile that had been actually alive and were around were pushed it over, or it fell, or whatever. But just to get at them or to scare them or whatever, or it just fell because that's how gravity works.
And it was like there was moments where I felt for Pika, or I always get her name confused with the Ewok from the Last Shot novel. Pika or Pippa, I always get them confused.
Is Pika Adrian.
Pika Adrian. at one point she like falls on her stomach really
Yeah.
hard or something, and I'm just cringing like, oh gosh, I hope
She
that baby's
almost
gonna
did.
be okay.
I think it's where there's the breach and there's
Yep.
things that are flying at her and they
Yep.
almost hit her. Yeah.
It's like, oh shoot, this is getting
Yeah.
really,
Perilous.
really perilous at this
Mhm.
point. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the relationship with Joss was like, you need a break. You need a break now. You just knowing that the way they know each other so well, and it's showing. It's not telling, and it's not a narration. And they knew each other that well. It's you need a break. One more minute. You need a break now. Having that rapport that a couple has been together for a long time just has with each other, and so just amidst all this weird sci-fi space fantasy chaos, just incredibly human story, incredibly human couple.
Oh yeah.
And so that's Star Wars for you at its best, is
It
to
is
be so
seriously.
incredibly human. So so that's Tales of the Occlusion Zone. And any last things to say about that one?
Again, I think the story group is doing a great job. Lydia Kang, she's hitting the ball out of park on this one every time. Just using her medical expertise, her
Yeah,
expertise as a mother to really give in those details that otherwise might have not been included if it was written by maybe you or me.
Yeah. That's Dr. Lydia Kang, MD. I was looking her up, just figuring out okay, what's the story? Yeah, medical stuff. All right, so it's really really good. Looking forward to probably just around the corner, just in the next few weeks when Insider comes back in for January. So not too far from now, because this one came out mid-December, so we're finally getting into it now. Okay, next week, just ongoing number 42.
I guess we could talk about the content of the Mandalorian episode or issue 8 if it really adds anything new.
I
But
don't.
I
I didn't buy
will.
Yeah. So we'll likely record. We'll talk about it. We'll let you know if we end up pushing this to the week after, just to combine it with the comics that week, because they're likely going to be more, of course. But it is coming out next week. Go to your local comic book shop, check it out. If you want to pick up Mandalorian, pick up another copy of Darth Vader number 42. Pick up a variant and put it in a good slab and
There you go.
get it graded. And because Enric Pratt, he's been around, and his popularity, I think, is gonna grow. So yeah, go check out your local comic book shop. Check out digital if that's more your speed, but support local. All right, that should do it for the tractor beam. We got to an hour there. It's been fun. It's been good. Good to get back into the swing of things. Happy New Year again, everybody. Chris, where can they find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. I'll be talking about Star Wars, video games, and more. You can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/StarRaptor, where I will be posting my video of these comics, these little short time reviews, Thursday morning. I'm also going to be starting back up my own podcast on that channel there, Outer Rim Transmission. Going to be going live. We might be doing something that's not Star Wars this week, so stay tuned for that.
What?
New year, new
Swift
channel,
mentioned?
new us. Not new channel, but it's maybe new changes to the channel. We'll see how that goes. And one last final thing to plug. I haven't even gotten a chance to talk about this on my own darn channel, but I have a little blog that I started up. It's starraptor.substack.com. I have 2 stories up there. if you want to learn what the heck Star Raptor even means, if you're in the community of Star Wars Underworld, you've probably heard my name pop up quite a few times. The heck is this guy referred to as Star Raptor all the time? Well, that's my first story on there. I also ran through my top 10 most anticipated games of 2024. And so I'm looking forward. I'm having fun, checking out a different creative streak over there. So check that out. Subscribe if you can. But thank you, madam.
Yeah, I guess blogging has got to be one of the most shockingly resilient media of the last 20 years. Just throwing that out there. That is something, it was around 20 years ago, 30 years ago, just the birth of the internet, the popularization of the internet. It's 2024, and people are starting new blogs and new things. I mean, my day job, is centered around a blog and, you know, I mean, a website for a media organization, but, you know, writing articles and putting them on the internet because people still want to read. Who knew? So yeah, definitely go check out Chris's Substack, check out Dom's Substack, off the press. Yeah, and, you know what? I'm catching the bug. Again, it's hard when it is your day job to then
really
go
hard,
and be
man.
like, okay, I'm gonna write something else for fun for $0 and all that. But definitely good thing to do and good to branch out. And if I can do it, I'm good at it. So I should. And so yeah. You both you and Dom are getting the juices going. I'll say that. Trying to figure out where the best place to do that is, but we'll find that out as well. Where you can definitely find me on Instagram and Threads at MNEUG1138. I'm kind of stepping back a little bit from posting new things on social media, but definitely, I mean, every Iron Cannon Tractor Beam episode, I'll retweet and share those. Yeah, and then, you know, Twitter at NEUG45. Mainly, of course, you know, Twitter, Instagram, Threads at Ion Cannon Pod. Check us out there. So this Monday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, picking up on some things Joel and I have talked about the last few weeks. Time in Star Wars and how it dilates and is weird. Even things we've talked about here on Ion Cannon, or Tractor Beam rather, about when are we getting to Return of the Jedi and how does time work in a comic book and all that stuff. Looking at examples of stories in Star Wars where time just isn't so linear or direct and timely, wimely, wibbly wobbly, Jeremy Baramy, all that stuff. So, you know, good sci-fi conceit. There's no time travel in Star Wars. Just putting that out there.
Good.
But there's other forms of time in terms of our experience of the story, and so that definitely does get played with. So we're going to talk about that, and then just keep on rolling here with Tractor Beam, etc. So yeah, check out Ongoing number 42. Check out Iron Cannon. Check out Outer Rim Transmissions and Star Raptors channel. And until then, happy reading.